Dr. Dan Siegel is actually the one that taught us that we can explain the brain in a very simple way. And we love doing this with all of our parents. I do this with parents, teachers, and adults, which leads me back to another little tip is everything that you do, always think about how do I explain this same material to a 5-year-old, to a 1-year-old, to a 10-year-old, to a 13-year-old, to a 35-year-old. I explain the material the same way. It's just being able to understand it and make it your own, and then that becomes something that you can really translate. But Dr. Dan Siegel talks about how our brain, we can explain our brain with our hands. So we have the brainstem. This is the dinosaur brain. And I always tell people the dinosaur brain is a part of our brain why reality TV actually exists. You know, you're watching the show with everybody, everybody's having like the greatest of time, everybody having dinner, all of a sudden something happens, people are taking their shirts off, they're jumping on the table, they're scratching each other, and you think, what happened? You know, the brainstem is the part of our brain that really develops from the moment of conception. And it has to do with everything that has to do with survival. So it's what keeps us alive. It's the part of our brain that activates when we are in a situation that we are uncomfortable with, or in a situation that really requires of us to have some physical reaction to it. So this part of our brain controls sleep, it controls our bodily functions. Imagine if every time that we are doing this, or as I'm sitting in here, I had to be telling myself, don't forget to blink, control your saliva, don't forget to pump blood to your heart, make sure that your hands are in the right place. This has to do with surviving, and it allows us to be able to relate to others and also have cognition because it's always functioning and it's really an automatic process. The second part of our brain is actually an emotional brain, and this has to do with the amygdala, the hypothalamus, the hippocampus. This is the part of our brain not only that allows us to have a relationship with others, but it is also the part of our brain that actually decides if we need to go into fight or flight response, or if we can calm ourselves down enough so that we can think about our options. Our last part of our brain is a prefrontal cortex, and this one actually doesn't really get developed until we are 27, 28, 29. This is our thinking brain or our cognitive brain. This part of our brain is really what allows us to see, understand cause and effect, is what allows us to do learning. It has a lot to do with being able to learn coping skills. What we know is in this part of our brain has to do a lot with implicit memory and memory in general. This one doesn't have a timestamp. So think about this. Let's say that we're walking down the street and then all of a sudden we see something in the floor. It could be like a snake. So if we didn't have this part of our brain, what happens is our brainstem will tell us, you gotta run, there is a snake, it's coming, it's gonna attack you, it's gonna kill you. If you have not experienced trauma, even though this get activated, that means I start feeling a little bit of my heart pumping, and I start feeling this sense of, oh, maybe I need to move. If we haven't experienced trauma, this part doesn't get activated. We feel body changing, but we don't really get activated. It goes into our amygdala of memory. All of a sudden, we get this understanding of, okay, there was a snake there, but are you far enough? Yeah, you're kind of far enough. It said, okay, have you had any experiences with snakes? Yeah, I remember I have a play snake in my room. I have this and that. So this is the part of, is it dangerous or not? That tells us you have to act or not. If it's not, then it comes into, again, flipping your lid, which is being able to go cognitively, and then says like, okay, Rebecca, look at it really close. Is it moving? That will be our cognitive brain. It's not moving. Is it certain colors of the snake? It's not certain colors of the snake. I bet if you get closer, you realize it's just a branch. So our brain is actually built in to be able to keep us safe, be able to relate to others, and be able to reason. What happens with kids that have experienced trauma is when trauma occurs, this part of the brain doesn't get developed fully. So cause, consequence, being able to understand I am safe, nothing is going to happen to me, doesn't happen that often because of that window of tolerance. So even though I'm in a safe place, even though I am in the play session or in the classroom and nothing bad is going to happen to me, as soon as I hear a noise that reminds me of a shooting, or that reminds me of somebody getting hurt, or something that makes my heart pump, what will happen is I forget I am at school, and then it goes immediately into you're in danger, because remember what happened last week at home when you heard that noise, somebody got hurt, and we go immediately into fight or flight. So being able to understand kids who have experienced trauma, adults who have experienced trauma, their window of tolerance and the cognitive ability is really managed by how much their brainstem and their emotional brain gets activated. And that's why it's important for us to be able to understand this. And then, we have two parts of our brain, the left and the right. And then we have, this is kind of how both of our hands come together. So